Hello and welcome to another mini math lesson. My name is Daisy Eccles and I'm with WKEC and I am an instructor for our GED program. So today we're going to be doing this mini math lesson and our focus is on circles and finding the circumference and the area of circles and kind of figuring that out also for word problems. So this first page here that I have, you can print off the worksheets that go with this video from our website, and then, or you can just take, pause this, take out a notebook, and write down these notes as you go. Either way. So we're going to go ahead and start first up here with our picture of a circle. And so this is a circle, and the measure that goes through the center of the circle that goes from one side to the other, that is called the diameter. Okay, so the diameter is the distance across the center of the circle, the widest part. Now, if you're going to go from the circle, from the center of the circle to the edge, which is only halfway across, that is called the radius. And these two different measures on a circle are really, really important, and you need to know them in order to find the circumference and the area of a circle. So what is circumference? Circumference is actually the measure or the distance around a circle. That is called circumference. So we're going to go around that circle, that's circumference. And then the third thing we have is the area of a circle. And the area of a circle is the distance or the measure of all this space that fills the circle. That is called the area. Okay, so when you go to take the GED test, they will give you a formula sheet. And this is a little piece of the formula sheet. And on that formula sheet, it's going to actually give you the formula to find the area of a circle, and that is A equals pi r squared. Okay, pi is approximately equal to 3.14. That's how you write it in decimal form, and that's a rounded off number. You can also write pi in a fraction form, and that is 22 over 7, the fraction. So you can use either one of those as approximate equivalent to pi, and we're going to use the 3.14 for today's problems. And you can kind of see in this formula, the formula for the area of a circle, I'm going to rewrite it down here. The area of the circle is pi r squared. So what is pi r squared? Pi is 3.14 times r squared, which is r times r. And we will use this to solve problems, to find area. The circumference, on our formula sheet here, circumference is actually perimeter. It's the perimeter of a circle, and it has a special name that's called circumference. That formula is C equals 2 pi r, or C equals pi d. So I'm going to write pi d here. And remember, d is just 2 r's. So we have an r this way and an r that way, so it's twice r, okay? So if you immediately, when you start thinking about circles, if you immediately think, okay, I need to know the radius and the diameter, and that will help me find circumference and area, excuse me. Okay, so that's some important things to know, and this is something to study, but also, even if you just study the formula sheet and you make sure you know right where to look for it, that will help you with the GED test. So we're going to do some practice problems. And I have some sample problems here. And again, this is part of the sheets that you can print off. And at the top of the sheet, I'm going to go ahead and write that formula down. Okay, circumference, hopefully you can see this, circumference equals pi d, and area equals pi r squared. Okay. And those are the two formulas that were going to help us to find it. So the first thing to do whenever you're looking at circle problems is you have to pay attention to what did they give you. So for number 1, they gave me the radius. So down here, r stands for radius. I'm going to fill that in. I have 4 feet. That's my radius. So what would my diameter be? Well, diameter is just 2 times the radius, so that's going to be 8. Okay, I'm actually going to go through these problems, and this is kind of what I do to kind of teach myself to always look and see if they give you the radius or diameter, is I'm going to practice doing the radius and diameter for all 6 of these problems. So if I've got 10 inches all the way across, that's my diameter. I'm going to put 10 there. And then I'm going to go back and find radius, which is half of the diameter. So I put 5. For number 3, I have 16, and that is my diameter. And then half of my diameter is my radius. That's 8. Okay. Down here, I have 8.4, and it goes all the way across. That's my diameter. And then half of that, if you're not sure, you can use a calculator. 8.4 divided by 2, that would be me taking half of it, is 4.2. So I put 4.2 is my radius. On my next one, I have 4.5 yards, okay? If you know how to change that half to a decimal, you would know that 4.5 is actually 4.5. So 4.5 is my radius, and then I need to double that or multiply it times 2 to get my diameter, which is 9. If you don't know how to do that, change it to a decimal, you can do that on your calculator. And I'm just going to show you. If I want to put in 4.5 on my calculator, I'm going to hit my second button, and I'm going to go hit my fraction button because I want that mixed number button that's above the fraction. So I use the second, and then I use that mixed number, and then I fill it in. I do 4, arrow over, 1, arrow down, 2, arrow out, 4.5. So then I can change that 4.5 to a decimal by hitting this toggle button right here. With the double arrows, I hit that button and hit enter, and it changes to a decimal for me. So 4.5 is the decimal. Okay, so that's how you do that one. And then for this last one, number 6, I have 7.5 meters. That's my radius. And then I double that. 7.5 times 2 is 15. Okay, so I took a moment to pay attention to whether or not the problem was giving me a radius or a diameter, and I just wrote that down first. Now I can go back and solve each one of these for circumference and for area. So circumference, I need to have pi times d. So that's 3.14 times the diameter. So for circumference, I'm going to take my calculator, 3.14 times d, which is 8, and I get 25.12. And that is feet. That's the length going around the circle. Now for the same problem, I need to find area. To find area, I take pi r squared. Pi r squared means 3.14 times my radius again. And I'm going to put that in. My radius here is 4. So I'm going to take 3.14 times my radius, which is 4, times 4 again, and I got 50.24. And this time it's feet squared, because area is going to be in square feet. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and work your way through these problems. Once you have figured your radius and diameter, you should be able to go ahead and go through these problems, and you're going to use that formula each time. If it's for circumference, you're going to use pi times diameter. If it's for area, you're going to use pi r squared. So I want you to go ahead and see if you could do these on your own. Pause the video right now, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you the answer key for these problems, and you can check your answers. Okay, hopefully you've done these independently, and here is the answer key. And rather than do this all on video, I've shown you how to do it, but I'm just going to give you the answer key right now so you can check your work yourself. Okay, so you'll have a moment to pause this, review your answers, see how you did. Okay, now we're going to look at what happens when we have word problems. Okay, with some of the things to pay attention to when you have word problems is what is it asking you to find? And I've made a little list here and I'm going to read it to you. There's lots of different word problems that are going to be on the GED test that have to do with circles and finding circumference and finding area. And circumference is when you need to figure out the measure of the outside of the circle, the measure around the outside of the circle. So those kind of word problems are going to have questions about fencing. How much fencing do you need to go around a garden or around a circular field or a swimming pool? How much wood you need to go like around a circular framing of some kind. Maybe it's a circular pillow and you want to know how much trim to sew on the outside of the pillow. Things like that, things that go around the outside, those are going to be your circumference. They also might have questions that have to do with wheels and the turning of the wheel. So as the wheel turns, how much distance is covered? Well, if you can imagine a wheel turning, say this right here is a wheel, and this is the part that's touching the ground. Well, as the wheel spins, we're measuring that distance around, and so it's going to want to know circumference. How much of that tire touched the ground and how much distance did it move? So those kind of questions, if it's a wheel that spins and you want to know how much it covered, that is, again, is circumference. Area word problems, they may be questions like how much tile do you need to cover a patio or a floor? How much paint do you need to paint on a circular tower or something? How much grassy do you need to cover a circular area of grass? How much material do you need to cover a pillow? And they also might have questions, and I've actually seen this question, where if you have a water sprinkler, and that water sprinkler sprays in the radius of the water, it sprays like 10 feet out. You have to imagine the sprinkler is in the middle of the circle, and it's spraying outward. So how much area was getting watered? That's going to be an area problem with a sprinkler head in the middle, okay? So those are kind of problems you might see, and you're going to have to need to know, do I find circumference or do you find area? Okay, so that's enough of the explanation. We're going to do a few word problems, and I'm going to help you work through some of those. So our first word problem that we have down here on the bottom, I'll read it to you. It says, Marco measured the widest distance across the top of a circular can to be 14 centimeters. What is the distance around the can? So I'm going to draw a little picture here. Here we've got the top of a can, okay? And the distance of the widest parts of the top of the can, that's going to be your diameter going all the way across, okay? So that diameter is measured to be 14 centimeters. They want to know what is the distance around the can. So we're going to be looking for circumference. So now I think, okay, what is circumference? Circumference is pi times diameter. That's the formula. So now I'm going to plug the numbers in. Circumference equals 3.14, because that's pi, times the diameter, which is 14. And then we use a calculator. My goodness, 1 second. Let's try this again. Okay. Sorry for being so loud, but we've got 3.14 times 14, and that gives us a circumference of 43.96 centimeters. That is the distance around the can. Okay, let's go to the next set of problems. We're going to start up here on the top with number 8. Hopefully you have this worksheet printed off and you can work along with me. We have number 8 up here. It says the first Ferris wheel was built in 1893 in Chicago. Its diameter was 250 feet. So I'm going to draw this picture. That's the diameter, 250 feet. How many feet did the Ferris wheel rotate with one complete turn? So let's just say that down here, okay, this is where somebody gets on. If it's rotating, it's going to spin around like this, come back around. And we want to know how far that distance is. That is circumference. So we need to find circumference. Circumference equals pi d. We do have the diameter. So C equals 3.14 times the diameter, which is 250 feet. So I'm going to pull out my calculator. 3.14 times 250, and I get 785. So the distance around is 785 feet. Okay, we're going to go to number 9. Hopefully you've taken a moment to read it. A round glass mirror measures 12 foot from the center to the edge. So we're going to imagine a mirror, a round mirror, and from the center to the edge is 1 foot. How many square inches of glass are in the mirror? Well, we go from feet here to inches. So we're going to have to change this foot to inches. So 1 foot equals 12 inches. Right? 1 foot is 12 inches. So we're going to use that measurement in inches. We want to go, we're wanting to know what the square inches of the glass mirror are. That's going to be how much glass does it take to cover that whole mirror. That's area. So area, if we look at our formula sheet, it's pi r squared, or 3.14 times r times r. So our radius from the center to the outside, that is a radius, so we've been given that, it's 12. So we're going to put that into our calculator. 3.14 times 12 is equal to 452 and 1600ths. That's how you say that. Well, we'll say 452.16, and that is inches or square inches, inches squared. This is our answer. Okay? And on this problem, we're finding area. Okay, we're going to move to our next question. Number 10, radio station WBKR broadcasts its signal to all points within an 84-kilometer radius of the station. What is the area of the region served? Well, we're looking for area, and it tells us that it's an 84-kilometer radius. So we imagine here's the circle of the area that's covered by this radio tower. Okay, so this radio tower broadcasts its signal out, and this radius is 84 kilometers. So we want to know the area. So we just use our formula, area equals pi, we're going to just write times r, right? And 84 is our radius. So here we go. 3.14, we use that for pi, times 84 times 84. And that gives us a really big number. It is 22,155.84 kilometers, or square kilometers, is the area of the region served by the radio tower. Hopefully you're able to see all this. Okay, we're going to keep going, and we're moving to number 11. Half the distance across a circular garden measures 4.9 meters. So here is my circular garden, and halfway across, that's a radius, is 4.9 meters. It does help me to draw a picture. So that's something that I would always recommend. Draw a little picture of it so you can label it and figure it out. How many meters of fencing material will be needed to enclose the garden? Okay, so we want to enclose. Fencing means we need to go around the outside. It's a measure of circumference. Circumference equals pi times diameter. But we were given the radius. So the radius means we got to double it, because we got to go all the way across. So I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to find diameter. I'm going to take 4.9 and multiply times 2, and that gives me 9.8. So 9.8 is my diameter, And then pi is 3.14, and that's what I'm going to put in my calculator. I've already got the 9.8, so I'm going to leave that there. Multiply times 3.14, and that gives me circumference equals 30.772, and that is meters. That's how many meters of fencing I need to go around that garden. All right, number 12. Circumference of a circle is 18.41 feet. They're giving us circumference this time. So this is a problem we're going to work backwards. What is the approximate length of the radius? Okay, so this is where formulas can be very, very helpful. Okay, they're giving me circumference. So when I have C equals diameter times, pi times diameter, and I have 18.41 feet is my circumference, I'm going to replace my C. 18.41 is my circumference. Now on the other side, I have 3.14 times D, okay? I don't know what my diameter is. I've got to find diameter in order for me to take half of it to find radius. So the way I do this is I'm going to actually divide my answer by 3.14, and that will tell me what my diameter is. And the way that looks algebraically is I take 3.14 and divide by both sides by that. So that's kind of algebra. Whatever you do to one side of this equal sign, you do to the other. So these cancel, and that leaves me just the D. And then I take 18.41 and divide that by 3.14. And I get this really long number here. Pretty well it equals 5.86. So 5.86 divided by 2. So I rounded it. But 5.86, I had to take half of that. I gotta have half of it to get my radius. So 5.86 divided by 2 equals 2.93. Now I go up here and I look at my answers, and it tells me, well, first of all, it's telling me I need to find the approximate. So I'm gonna be rounding it. So 2.93 actually rounds to be 3 feet. Okay. So I just want you to notice we did some rounding this time, and this was a problem where we worked backwards. So circle problems are doable. You can do them. You just have to get familiar with how to use a formula. I hope this practice was helpful for you. And please feel free to watch it a couple times, take some notes, study this before you take your GED test or your GED practice test. And make sure to leave any comments if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.